I was just admiring the polytunnel garden with the pops of yellow and red, the squash blooms and the geraniums and all that green. It looks so pretty up there, but it's morning and it feels rather cool. It feels like fall is moving in. I'm loving this beautiful mess of blooms here with my coleus. I have two different kinds of coleus. And also the alyssum. Looking so pretty. That alyssum just grew from seed somewhere out in my garden, and I added it to these pots, and I really love the combination. But I believe this is the dark prince, and I should probably take cuttings of it before it goes to flower. It looks like it's about to go to flower there, and some of my other coleus have gone to flower. And this was just a scrap that the nursery let me take. I asked if I could take a scrap of that. So it's a small-leaved coleus, and I just love how this is looking. Again, it's bounced back after the heat of August. Now in September it's just lush and beautiful. And over here, misplaced in this topiary pot, are some painted daisies. Aren't they pretty? I love the color. But these were part of a cut flower mixture that was less than $1. I think they're so pretty, and I've been waiting to see what they are. They've been in bud for over a week, and they finally opened up, but I think they're just so gorgeous. And I may bring those in. They look kind of funny with the topiary out here, but that's okay if you're going to use it as a cut flower. And it looks like I have some more forming here. This looks like a bud that's going to form, and then this one is just about to open. So isn't that fun? It's nice to get cut flowers for less than 99 cents. This was my favorite coleus this year. I think it's like a lemon lime type of coleus. I'm not sure. It came as part of a group of coleus, so it wasn't named on the tag. But it looks like everywhere it went to flower, it might be kind of dying back. It's turning yellow here. So I think I better hurry up and take a few cuttings down here so I have it next year before that part goes to flower. But I will tell you, the bees have gone crazy over these flowers, and that's a very good reason for me to let them go to flower. They're also pretty too, but I do think once a plant goes to flower, it thinks its job is done because that's how they produce their seeds. And oftentimes they'll die back after they flower. I did go ahead and take cuttings from all the different tomatoes that we enjoyed this year, and I have no idea if this is going to be a viable option to propagate plants, but my hope was that I could keep these alive hydroponically in just in little cups of water, and at some point I might have to add a little extra nutrient of some kind, but we'll cross that bridge when it comes. But I was hoping to eke these by over the winter and plant them up next spring so I could use them in the garden. But if you've ever done this overwintered tomato cuttings, let me know. I'm in zone 6B, 7A, and so of course they'd be inside. But I've never tried this before, and I just thought, well, it's worth a try. As I'm pruning everything back, I may as well put it in water and see what happens. But I've got some beefsteak tomatoes and some brandywine tomatoes and a bunch of different cherry tomatoes. And I'm just going to take this blossom off because you don't want the plant putting any energy into blossoms. And you want to strip a lot of the leaves off and just leave, a little plume of leaves at the top, because you want it to focus on making roots. So we'll see what happens, and let me know if you've had any success doing this technique. And then of course I always like to grow tomatoes from seed, so we'll see what happens. And then over here I did repot a couple of my tabletop forest plants. I gave them bigger pots. I think these two are the new ones, but they did really well this summer. They seem to be drought tolerant because in such small pots they do get dry, but they've done well this year, and I like to have these on the table because I can look out here and have a winter display. It's really a year-round display, but aren't they cute? These are just starts I found around my garden, and I just potted up, and I like to, it's just a pretty way of having a free little topiary, especially if you already have had the pots like I did. Funny to think I'm projecting ahead to winter and also spring. But that's what we gardeners do. We're always thinking ahead. Fall is a great time to set up new compost bins. So I moved this compost bin. I emptied out some about year-old compost and spread it around, and also left a nice pile of it. And I moved the bin over here. This is actually a free bin my county gives me, but in the fall you're cleaning out so much debris from your garden, and of course you have all the fall leaves. These are persimmons. They're wild persimmons that fall, and I do leave a lot for the animals, but they're a great addition to a compost heap. So I put those in, and of course year-round I put my kitchen scraps and any yard waste, but this, like I said, this time of year you get so much yard waste as you're cleaning up and getting ready for that seasonal change. The important thing is just layer it in there, greens and browns, kind of alternating layers. I don't have any formula. I just make sure that there's a mix of layers. And then I do a minimum of compost turning, but I just let it sit and do its thing. And it's amazing. You can keep adding to this for an entire season, and the level goes down as the organisms work on it. But it's really a miraculous, wonderful thing, and I'm trying to make lots of compost for next year. This is where it used to be, and I have this half broken down compost. This is about a year out. I took the best of it out. Let me show you what it comes to look like. This is what like year-old compost looks like when you don't even do anything. It probably would have developed faster if I'd been out here turning it, but that's a little bit too much work for me. So by next spring though, another 6 months from now, this is going to be fantastic. But I took the best of this compost and put it over in my kale garden, which I cleaned out this week. So let me show you what it looks like over there. And this is where I put the rest of the compost from that pile. It's my kale gardens. And I still have a zucchini squash and one tomato kind of winding down at the end there. But I decided, because this is sort of a shady area, I would just concentrate on growing greens like kale. And hopefully I'll be getting some kale this fall and winter. So I really topped off my containers here, and that should break down even further by the spring. But all of that is free material, free compost. So it's not hot anymore, or I would not have put it on these plants. But, you know, can't get better than free. Here's another view of the kale garden looking neat and tidy, and I'm hoping now that the pest pressure is reduced, these kales will really start to look great. I did plant a couple extra perennials that were on sale at Lowe's. This is the blanket flower, and I did chop it back. It had a lot of dead blossoms on it, but it gave me a couple of new ones as well. And my friend Lori gave me 3 milkweed. I think they're monarch milkweed, which I put here, one over next to that sedum, and then one back there. And right now they're still looking droopy. They're getting acclimated. So I'm hoping that they root in time for the cold weather, and they come back looking great in the spring. We'll see. And then I mentioned I had bought 2 different types of perennial. This one is a coreopsis, and I got 2 of those. Again, they were on sale. You know, once these things stop blooming, they become less appealing and they go on sale, but they will root in this fall, and next year they're going to be glorious displays of perennial flowers. I think this one's kind of a gold color, so we'll see how that looks. And I'm getting to enjoy the blanket flowers this year. And my chrysanthemums are opening up more and more. I'm just loving those. That's a huge, huge plant there. And I did flash this earlier, but all of my sedums are putting up beautiful purple blooms. A rainstorm broke my fig tree, so I went ahead and tucked the branch down into a pot of soil over here. So we'll see if I get another fig tree out of it. This was last week, and it still looks like it's nice and hydrated with that bud at the top. Hope you can see that. But hopefully next spring it will have roots on it and be a small fig tree start. This is a great time of year to take cuttings, and I didn't actually plan on it, but nature helped me out with that. I'm showing you my pumpkins again because I'm just so darn excited about it. It looks like the vines are starting to yellow, so maybe by next week they'll be ready to harvest. But I am, especially since it's green down by the pumpkin, I am going to let it stay on there and gather more nutrients from the plant, which even though the leaves have died back, the stem is still green and absorbing that sun's energy. There's my other one. Plus my butternut squash back there, still on a green vine. So I'm just so excited about those pumpkins, guys. I'm hoping none of my critters eat them. So I looked up what type of bug my wasp friends are, and I found out that they are bald-faced hornets. I Google imaged them just with a description of black and white bee, but they're bald-faced hornets, and apparently their sting is terrible, but I don't like to upset the balance in my garden. They actually eat a lot of pests, so I guess I should consider myself lucky that I have a house of bald-faced hornets, and just keep my distance, and hopefully they will get rid of some of my bad bugs. And but it's always good to look these things up, and apparently it's really a beneficial bug, but they say do not let them nest near the house. And this is at the back of my property, so I feel pretty comfortable that I can avoid this. I was able to gather a fall bouquet. There were so many blooms still going on, and some of them, of course, are fall blooms. So we've got the chrysanthemum here. The zinnia are still going strong. I have the autumn joy sedum, ageratum, that's been blooming throughout late summer as well. That's the bluish one here. And then I put autumn anthem miscanthus plumes in there. And I have a feeling they'll go to seed and possibly make a mess in the house, but I'm going to enjoy them in there until they do. And but just a bunch of zinnias. Here's my, it might be an aster. Let me know if you recognize that. That's either an aster or a painted daisy of some kind, but that was the bloom I showed you that was growing in the topiary. But look, guys, there's still enough blooms in the fall garden to get a beautiful bouquet. So I'm just delighted with this, and I hope you have some pretty blooms to cut in your garden. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.